Hello friends, so yesterday in previous lecture we have seen the concept of capacitance and magnetism. So today we are going to talk about the concept of induction and how induction can be used as a sensing principle for various sensors. Okay. So the fundamental effect of electromagnetism is that an ability of varying magnetic field to induce electric current in a wire. So you know the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. So again we are going to see the same effect over here. So when I say that there is a varying magnetic field, that varying magnetic field will induce electric current in a wire, or vice versa, a current carrying conductor induce a magnetic field. So that is also possible. So this is the fundamental effect of electromagnetism. Now the electric current is generated as long as the magnetic field changes. So when the magnetic field is constant, if magnetic field is constant, then you cannot generate an electric field. Either you have to move the coil or you have to vary the magnetic field. Then and then only you can generate the electric field. This is what the meaning of that one. So Faraday's law of induction says that the induced voltage or electromotive force, that is EMF, is equal to the rate at which the magnetic flux through the circuit changes. So that is nothing but EMF generated is equal to d phi by dt. If I say phi is the magnetic flux, then d phi by dt, how fast it is changing, the EMF will be induced accordingly. Okay, so this is how I can define E is equal to minus d phi by dt. So minus sign indicates the EMF opposite to that change in flux. So the rate of change of is in Weber per second and EMF is in volts. So flux, we have seen that, so the flux is measured in terms of Weber and magnetic field is measured in terms of Tesla. So here the Webers per second, the EMF will be generated and that will be measured in terms of volts. So now let us consider that if you have a coil of n turns with a cross sectional area A, so n turns and cross sectional area A, then the voltage generated will be V is equal to minus n d phi by dt. Okay, so if the number of turns will be more, obviously generated voltage will be again more. If the single turn will be there, obviously V is equal to minus d phi by dt. But if 10 turns will be there, then in that case it will be multiplied by 10 and so on. If the number of turns will be more, obviously EMF generated will be comparatively more. Or you can write it as a V is equal to N d B A. B is magnetic field, A is the cross sectional area, by dt, because flux is nothing but the magnetic field into the cross sectional area, that magnetic flux affecting the cross sectional area, that will give you the flux. So if phi b is given as BA, so B is equal to minus n d BA divided by dt. So if the electric current is passed through the coil, if the electric current is passed through the coil which is situated close proximity with another coil, okay, that means if a current is passed through the coil and if it is situated close to the coil, so let us consider this example. Okay, let us consider this coil. So if you pass the current through this coil and if you place a second coil nearer to this, then if you pass the current through this coil, a EMF will be generated in a second coil. So here you will get the output in this coil as a E0. the output in the coil as a E0. So this is called as a inductance principle or induction principle. That means if you pass the current through this, so there will be a magnetic flux. There will be a magnetic flux associated with first coil. This is first coil, this is second coil. So there will be a magnetic flux associated with this coil, and this magnetic flux linkage will be there with the second coil, and this linkage, the change in current will cause the change in magnetic flux, and that change in magnetic flux will cause the change in inductance with this coil, and obviously the EMF will be generated according to this one. So this is the same principle we have used in the transformer also. So this is the Faraday's law says that, according to Faraday's law. So the magnetic field sets the EMF in the same coil. In the same coil, here it is in the same coil. If the magnetic flux is there, then it will generate the EMF, that is called as a self-inductance. That is called as a self-inductance, and the voltage generated is called as a self-induced EMF. That means you don't consider the second coil, only this coil is there, and if you pass the magnetic flux or changing magnetic flux, it will generate the EMF, let us say EI. That EI I will call it as a self-induced EMF. Self-induced EMF. Whereas if you put it in a second coil, so if you put it in a second coil, then that is called as a mutual inductance. That is called as a mutual inductance. So if the two coils will be there, then it will be a mutual inductance. And if the EMF is induced in a single coil itself, then same coil itself, that is called as a self-inductance, self-induced EMF. So Faraday's law for the central portion of the solenoid. We have seen that whenever you pass the current through the coil, it will generate a magnetic flux, and that magnetic flux will attract that bar, and that kind of principle is called as a solenoid. So V is equal to minus d n phi by dt. So n, and accordingly you are going to calculate it, the voltage for the solenoid. And here for a simple coil with no magnetic material in the vicinity, the value of the flux linkage is proportional to the current flowing through the coil, because if you don't consider the magnetic field is 0, then whatever may be the flux linkage will be there, that is caused because of current. That you can calculate n phi b, or simply n into phi, that is equal to L into I. So simply I will consider this L as a constant, and I can say that n phi will be directly proportional to I. This is, I can say that. That means whatever may be the current flowing through the coil, that the flux linkage or flux generated in the coil will be proportional to the current I. So I'll put this L as a constant, and this is called as the inductance of the coil. This is called as a inductance of the coil. So simply how you will derive it? So V is equal to, simply I'll put it into previous equation of the solenoid, minus d n phi by dt. So I'll replace this n phi by Li, then I'll take L out, then is equal to, the equation will turn into V is equal to minus L di by dt. So voltage generated in inductance is given by inductance into change in current, right? So this basic concept, fundamental concept, we have studied it in the concepts like network analysis and other principles. So this is how I can generate the voltage through the coil when I pass the current. So the induced voltage is equal to V is equal to minus L di by dt. So we can define the inductance as L is equal to minus V divided by di by dt. Obviously this voltage generated is try to oppose the current. Okay, so SI unit of the inductance is volt second per ampere. It is volt second per ampere and it is called as a Henry. So 1 Henry is equal to 1 volt second per ampere. So it is indicated by H. So whenever you are taking the value of inductance, you take the value in terms of 1 millihenry, 10 millihenry and so on. So the several conclusions we can draw from this discussion. The first conclusion is that induced voltage is proportional to the rate of change of current through the inductor. Okay, so the previous equation that we have derived or we have seen, it indicates that the induced voltage is proportional to, that is nothing but V is equal to minus L di by dt. So if L is constant, then V is proportional to minus di by dt. So change in current. Voltage is essentially 0 for direct current because direct current I is constant. That's why di by dt is 0. So voltage generated will be obviously 0. That's why inductance shows very high resistance to the for DC voltage the induced voltage will be 0. That means XL is equal to 2 pi FL, that we have seen. So F is equal to 0, so XL is equal to very very high infinite. XL is similarly you will be calculating it. Here you will be calculating the voltage increases linearly with the current rate changes. So if you are going to change the current, that is going to change the voltage linearly. So here it is changing linearly. So voltage polarity is of different type for increased and decreased current flowing in the same direction. So if you increase it and decrease it, the voltage polarity will be different. So induced voltage is always in the direction which opposes the change in current. That's why that minus sign is there. Okay, so it try to oppose the change in current. Now when you connect an inductance in electronic circuit, it will be represented as a complex resistance. That means you can call it as a impedance. So how it will be represented? So V divided by I, that is nothing but XL is equal to J omega L, that is nothing but J 2 pi FL. So XL is equal to 2 pi FL, that we have already known. And the complex notation J indicates that the current lags behind the voltage. In case of here, in case of inductance, the current lags behind voltage, whereas in case of capacitance, the voltage lags behind current. This is what the difference is. So you should know it. And if the coil are two coils, we bring it in the vicinity to each other, the EMF generated in a second coil will be given by V2 is equal to minus M21 di1 by dt. So di1 is the current in the change in the current in the coil 1, and M21 is the mutual inductance between coil 2 and 1. So here you can see how the current is calculated. Here is coil 1 and coil 2. With coil 1 and coil 2 have a different different turns, number of turns. Here N1 is having different turns, here N2 are having different turns. So you can see N2 is shown by the dark line. So here it is N2 and here it is N1. So and the internal radius will be of A and external radius will be of B. Then how you are going to calculate V2? So the mutual inductance will be calculated by M is equal to, the mutual inductance will be calculated by M is equal to mu 0, that is permeability, into N1 into N2. N1 means the number of turns in the first coil and number of turns in the second coil, into H H is the height of that connecting material which try to link the flux, divided by 2 pi ln b by a, that is maximum radius or the outer radius divided by inner radius. So this is how we are going to calculate the value of mutual inductance in the two coils. Now the next concept is of resistance. So the concept of inductance, magnetism, the concept of capacitance, these are the very primary concepts and physical phenomena that are observed in nature, or that are observed through the various experimentations also. So here we are going to start with a new concept, and you are well versed with this concept of resistance, but I am going to repeat it once again and I will try to cover up it. So resistance, as we know that every material, when you pass the current, actually when you pass the current through any conductor, what happens exactly? The current when flows through the conductor, actually the electrons moves from positive terminal to negative terminal to positive terminal, and conventionally I say that the current is flowing from positive to negative. But when these electrons are passing from one molecule to or one atom to another atom, and when they pass it from one to another, then they collide with the other material. Okay, then we collide with the other material, and at that material they will get opposed by the structure will oppose the flow, or there will be an obstruction of flow of current, and that obstruction we know it as a resistance. So we will try to understand that concept over here. So I will take you the example that let us consider that you are the free electron and you are moving in a passage where there are no students. Then what will happen? You will move easily from one end to another end. But if there are hundreds of students are there in a passage, then what will happen? You collide with others, and you will find that you cannot move from one end to another end, and you will find the obstacle between that one, and that obstacle is nothing but the resistance. We will call it as a resistance. So here what we will do, that let us consider a material or a bar having length L, and with a battery of voltage V is connected to that one. So electric field E will be set up, as we have already seen the concept of inductance and other points, that electric field E will be set up in the material, and that electric field will be given by. So this is how we can say that. So this is the battery I have connected between the two ends of the bar. The bar is having the length L, and this is the electric field E will be generated. The electrons will move from this end to this end, and the current will move from this end to this end. So this is the conventional current. This is opposite to the flow of electrons. So E is equal to V by L. E is equal to V by L. So electric field generated will be proportional to the voltage applied and inversely proportional to the length of the bar. Okay. So the rate of electric charge flowing through the bar, I will call it as an electric current. That means dq by dt is nothing but the current. So I is equal to dq by dt. So this is how I can calculate the current, and when I pass it through the this bar, I'll try to find out the resistivity. Then there is a specific resistivity. So every material in the universe is having its own specific resistivity. Our body will also have our own specific resistivity. The glass will have its own specific resistivity. The metal have its own specific resistivity depending on its composition, and how to calculate it, that let us see. So material may be characterized by an ability to pass the electric current, it is called the resistivity. The material is said to have electrical resistance, which is defined by Ohm's law. So what the Ohm's law says that? What the Ohm's law says? The Ohm's law says that keeping the physical environment constant or physical quantity constant, that means temperature is constant, other environment parameters are constant, the current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to the voltage applied. This is what the Ohm's law says. So V or I is proportional to V. So V is equal to I into R. So that R is nothing but the resistance. So R is given by V divided by I. So for pure resistance, that means there is no inductance or no capacitance present in the material, then I will call it as a pure resistance. So voltage and current are in phase. Voltage and current are in phase. In inductance and capacitance, we have seen that either the voltage lead or lag depending on what kind of property it is. If it is inductance, the current will lead. If it is capacitance, current will lead. In inductance, the voltage will lead, and in capacitance, the current will lead. So this lead and lag will occur because of that one. But if it is purely resistance, then the voltage and the current, if this is the voltage, then current is in the same direction. That means the phase difference between V and I will be 0. This is what the meaning of the same one. That means they are changing simultaneously. So any material has a resistivity and therefore it is called as a resistor. The unit for the resistance is 1 ohm, which is given by 1 volt per ampere. 1 volt per ampere. Now the resistance is the characteristics of the device, and it depends on both the material and the geometry of the resistor. So obviously what kind of material and its atomic structure, that atomic structure will tell the resistance characteristics of that one, and the geometry of this resistor. So geometry of the resistance means its cross sectional area as well as the length. So if it is a metal, then that is going to hamper its specific resistivity. So the specific resistivity of any material will be given by rho is equal to E by J. Rho is equal to E by J. E is the electric field generated and J is the current density. So current density depends upon the length and cross sectional area. Okay. So SI unit of resistivity is ohm meter. To find the resistance of the conductor, we use this formula, rho is equal to L by A. Rho is equal to R resistance is equal to R is equal to rho into L by A. Rho is the specific resistivity of that material. L is the length of that material divided by cross sectional area of that material. That will give you the resistance of the that material or the conductor. Then we know that every atom is temperature sensitive. Every atom or every object is temperature sensitive, and we know that when the temperature goes on increasing, this will increase the atoms, this will increase the energy of the atoms, those are in the conduction band, valence band, and these electrons, because of that temperature, they will get the high energy and they will move to the conduction band. So from valence band to conduction band they will move, and accordingly every material is sensitive to the temperature, including our body also. So we are very sensitive to the temperature. That's why we are able to identify what is hot, what is cold, what is warm. We can easily identify the difference between the temperatures. So because our body has its own senses, so similarly every material in the universe is sensitive to the temperature. Now what happens, the conductivity of the material changes with the temperature T, and its coefficient is given by alpha, that is temperature coefficient of the resistance. So this temperature coefficient may be positive or this temperature coefficient may be negative. If the temperature coefficient is positive, then the resistance will increase with the temperature, and if the temperature coefficient is negative, the resistance will decrease with the temperature. That is called as a PTR and NTR. So the specific resistivity will be given by rho is equal to rho 0 into 1 plus alpha into T minus T0. So rho 0 is at room temperature, whatever may be the resistivity you are measuring, and T0 you may consider it as a room temperature, and whatever may be the temperature you are increasing above that, you calculate it, find out the difference between room temperature and the actual temperature, multiply it by the factor alpha, that is TCR, 1 plus TCR into change in temperature into the resistivity at specific resistivity at room temperature will give you the resistivity at specific temperature. This is how you can calculate the temperature sensitivity. So metals have the positive temperature coefficient. That means since metals already they have the valence band with the free electrons, so when you increase the temperature, the resistivity of the metal increases. The resistivity of the metal increases because the number of electrons, more and more number of electrons will be free, and more number of electrons will be free. That is going to cause a more obstacle for the flow of electrons. So because of that, the temperature, the resistivity increases. Hence, metals are said to have a PTC type of alpha, that is a positive temperature coefficient. Semiconductor and oxides will have a NTC. So semiconductors, you have already studied the atomic structure of Si and germanium. So you know that the 4 electrons are in a valence band, and the 4 electrons need to be occupied. That's why there is a negative temperature coefficient. So when you increase the temperature, so these electrons will free to move and it will try to occupy the next stage. That's why the temperature coefficient will be negative. The examples are thermistor and RTD, that is the resistive temperature detectors, where such kind of concepts are used. Then there is one more concept again on which the resistance it depends on the light, that is called as a LDR, light dependent resistor. So I am giving you the example of resistance sensor. Here it is that sensor which depends upon the temperature is the thermistor, that is means thermal, the property is thermal, and resistor, the resistance whose value depends on the thermal property. That's why it is called as a thermal resistor, and the resistive temperature detector is called as RTD. Okay. Then we have seen this, sorry. Then again we know that R is equal to rho into L by A. This formula we have already seen. R is equal to rho into L by A. Okay. R is equal to L into R is equal to rho into L by A. So strain means when I put a pressure on or when I try to pull a wire, what will happen? The wire will get elongated. So if this is the wire, let us say that, and you try to pull it into this direction, what will happen? The length of the wire will get increased. If the length is going to is increasing, obviously the cross sectional area is also decreased. That means the wire becomes thinner. So this property is going to change the overall resistance of the wire, and this property is used to measure the strain. So this effect is generally used in piezoresistive effect. This is called as a piezoresistive effect when it is mechanically deformed, and it is successfully used in the sensor and the responsive for the stress. So stress and strain, that concepts you have already seen. So you can see that this is the length and this is the cross sectional area, and when you apply the force on the both end, obviously the length is going to increase and the cross sectional area is going to decrease. So Young's modulus you can calculate, and F is known to you. So dl upon L will give you the strain, the change in length divided by total length, that will give you the strain, and that strain is directly proportional to, or the resistance will be proportional to this strain, and you can calculate the value. Similarly, moisture is also affecting the resistance. So moisture sensitivity you need to consider. That means whenever you are selecting a resistor or resistance property for a sensing, what parameters you are going to check, or you need to understand the condition where you want to apply this concept. So you need to consider the temperature, you need to consider the strain, you need to consider the moisture. If these parameters are there, then accordingly you have to select it. So such kind of moisture sensitivity is generally used to measure the humidity. So here is your best example of measuring the humidity. Hygrometer, the device called as a hygrometer, which measures the humidity, which is sensitive to the humid environment. So you know that when your hair is wet, it gets elongated, and when it is not wet, it gets the length will get changed. So your hair will be very sensitive to the moisture. So such kind of principles are used for checking the moisture sensitivity also. So moisture dependent resistance can be fabricated for a hygroscopic material whose specific resistivity is strongly influenced by the concentration absorbed by water molecule. So humidity is more means water in the air will be very more. That is what the meaning of that one. Water content in the environment is heavy. That's why we call it as a humid environment, and that humid environment will cause the change in the hygroscopic property, and that will change the resistors. So such kind of resistors are called as a hygristors. Such kind of resistors are called as a hygristors. So this first one represents the humidity concept, and the next one is the resistor. So the resistor depends upon hygroscopy, is called as a hygristor. So this is what the principle used in moisture sensitivity. Here the material is made up of polymer, and the electrodes are there, and when it is exposed to the humid environment, its property will change according to humidity, and the resistance will change. This material will absorb the water molecules in the environment, and its property will change, resistance property will change, and if the resistance property is going to change, obviously the resistance is proportional to the moisture. So this is how you are calculating the resistance. So inductance you are calculating. If you pass the current through the coil, it will generate the self inductance, or the magnetic flux, changing magnetic flux will generate the EMF, that is called as a self induced EMF, and mutual inductance we have seen, and these concepts are used in transformer type of concepts you have already known. Then we have seen the resistance, the specific resistivity, then the sensitivity to the temperature, sensitivity to the moisture, sensitivity to the pressure, and such kind of examples we can see in the environment also. So your devices like AC, which is a fully automatic AC, then in that case there is a sensor which measures the temperature. So such kind of temperatures are temperature sensitive. Then I'll give you the example of strain gauge measurement. Then this is the best example of weight measurement. Whenever you want to measure your weight, you stand on a weigh scale, electronic weigh scale, and that weigh scale will give you the weightage that is proportional to your weight, because when you stand on that weigh scale, which is having that strain gauges, that strain gauge will measure the deformation depending on your pressure, and that pressure is proportional to the your weight. And similarly moisture. So this is how we have concluded with the today's lecture. I'll stop here, and in next lecture we'll go for the other parameters like piezoelectric and Hall effect.